Good morning or good afternoon. I've said this a few times now, but today marks the first day a female makes an appearance on the podcast. I've been super excited, patiently waiting to share this with you all. But here it is, Emma's story. Wherever you are, stay safe, love GA, enjoy. Peace. Good morning, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Gravitated Arts. I'm so excited today to be doing this episode. Today is Saturday, the 10th of September, and it will be the first day that a female guest has come onto the show, which I'm very happy about. Emma, did you want to just introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Emma.
As I was putting together all these questions and getting into this, I wanted to start by going, you're a mother of 3 children, and something I love seeing so much about you and your relationship with your daughters is how close you guys are and that sort of friendship and bond with your girls. Would you say that that was a goal of yours, to have that kind of connection with them?
Yeah, definitely. I always wanted to be a mother. I have 3 brothers, so I grew up with boys, and I always expected that I would have boys as well. So when I had girls and kept having girls, it was a real blessing.
Your husband, Jason Higlett, which many people know as Higo, a great man, you said this about him last week. I'm thankful that Jason is such a good man and is such a caring, funny, kind, and awesome guy. He really lives out his faith and is a good dad to our girls and a father figure to many others. Just yesterday when we went for a walk, you mentioned how you actually first saw your husband in year 8. Can you talk a bit about that story?
So we were at a camp, and Toowoomba was also at a camp, and Jason was wearing a wetsuit with undies on and some kind of mask and was riding a bicycle. And so that was my first ever sighting of Jason Higlett.
Yeah. Something that surprised me as well was how earlier in your relationship you wrote down a list, kind of like a checklist for your future husband. Could you speak about that, and also how you tested Jason on one of the things on the list?
Oh, wow. So the list was very silly, but I thought it was going to be so impossible to find someone with all this stuff on it. And one of them was that they had to be left-handed, because I'm left-handed, and born in Toowoomba because I was born in Toowoomba. And so when we met and Jason picked up a pen and he was left-handed and he had blue eyes and a few other things, and I was like, yep, I'm going to marry this man.
You know, like when someone, I guess when we get surprised, we make that sound. What was it like when you saw him pick up the pen with his left hand? Did it surprise you?
I was like, uh-oh.
From when you first saw Jason and to that moment of seeing what hand he writes with, between that period, how long was it before you decided to write down that list?
So I think I wrote the list in maybe, I was like in grade 11. Yeah. After a few things had happened, and then I was like, okay, this is the kind of person that I want to, be with. And on the list also had other things like godly character and, good father, and like good, just really depth of their kind of soul for Christianity and stuff like that. So yeah, there was a few light-hearted ones, but there was also some really deep ones. And so after I met Jason, it wasn't long before I knew that I was going to marry him. So
wow, that's amazing. With a lady that comes to mind is Mrs. Jodie Coram. And speaking to you, I couldn't believe this next one. But Mrs. Coram, my homework tutor in high school, the lady that inspired me to want to write, in 1998, she was a bridesmaid at your wedding.
Yeah.
How did that all come?
Wow. So Jodie was only 16, I think, when she was bridesmaid, and her family and her were very good friends to Jason, like before I came along.
Yeah.
So, it was just felt natural that Jodie would be a part of our wedding. So,
and you've since becoming friends with her, you've also become friends with her sister,
yeah,
Mandy.
yeah,
Yeah.
very good friends with Mandy.
This is something that Mrs. Coram told me when I was in high school, but she said, it is really cool to hear that you like writing so much. It is something that you will be able to escape to throughout your life. Being creative through writing, dance, music, design, or another form can provide so much happiness and escape. For yourself, did writing provide that escape for you?
I think actually reading was more the escape early on.
Yeah.
And then I did a calligraphy course in grade 7 as an extracurricular activity, and I really loved it, just like writing in different fonts and all that. And then book club as well, like just getting a new book and yeah.
You still do calligraphy to this day, or?
I just do fun writing.
Oh, okay. Would you say you were more of a journaler growing up, or were you someone who just wrote little stories here and there?
I wrote a few stories in primary school, but only kind of journaled in high school. And yeah, I would write every single thing that happened. And sometimes I'd look back on it and go, oh, no, if anyone finds this. So yeah, I destroyed a few, but I've kept the ones after that.
When would you say you would write most? Was it during happy times, sad times, in school, at home?
I think after I moved away, I wrote a lot just because I was by myself a lot. So, yeah, I would write, just journal thoughts and prayers and just so much, yeah.
And what would you say kept you interested in loving writing? Because sometimes, we develop a habit or we get interested in something, but then over time we lose that interest. What kept you sticking to writing?
So I used to take notes, like when I was at uni, I'd take notes and write and listen. And when I studied, I'd be writing and loved writing. And then I'd take notes of sermons at church and have a book in my bag, and everywhere I went, I'd write notes about it. Yeah. So then sometimes I'd come back and write more in my journal. And so I just guess it's always been a part of who I am.
That's really cool. Is there a piece of writing that stands out to you that you're really proud of, or makes you think, yeah, I did that?
Maybe when, no, I don't really know, because I have written things like communion and devotions and mainly for my journal, but I haven't actually written anything like, written it to publish. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What about your writing? Was that something you ever shared with like your parents or like your siblings? Did you tell them that you enjoyed writing?
We used to, when we went on this camp, and my brother and I used to go to this summer camp, and during the week you'd get a letter from home, and I always looked forward to that, and Mum, she'd always write me one, which was great. And then I always wrote to my grandparents in Sydney, and just remember just letters, loving getting letters in the mail.
And in terms of the work that you write, I know for me often it was weird, but I'd write about like sad things and try to turn them happy, or like I'd write about deep things and like that would get the reader to think about life. Do you remember what sort of things you're driven to write about?
I remember writing a book not a book, but like in a book that I tried to change the names of all the people so no one would know what it was, but it was my life. Yeah. And I never showed anyone, but I thought, okay, I'm safe. If anyone finds this, they won't know what's happening, or,
so
about my life.
You're writing about your life, honestly, but then you change the names so no one would know. Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was actually a really bad time in my life, so it helped to do that.
To change it.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that period when you were younger out of school or?
No, it was around in maybe early high school. Yeah.
Just difficulty around school.
Yeah, and just different relationships and things had happened, and
How would you say school was for you? Like, what was your experience like with school back then?
It was tricky. A lot of my friends, we used to, I don't know, they kind of turned to different things, and I was one of the only ones that went to church and always felt kind of, not great about going to church with my friend because they didn't. And so, it was hard in that sense. But then I used to love playing team sports. So I'd just love, like soccer, volleyball. We did HPE and had to do all this stuff. And so that was really cool because it made us, have to be a team and
Oh, that's nice. Did you only play these sports in school, or like did you play sports out of school as well?
I actually went to a gym for a year, and I used to, I think it was in grade 11, I would drive there with my dad, and we'd take my bike, and then I would go to do jogging and then do the class and then ride back home all before school.
Whoa.
And then sometimes in the afternoon I'd go back to the gym. So I had it was kind of became a bit of an obsession.
In year 11?
Yeah.
Whoa.
So I'd get to school late, and the only person I'd see was one of my friends, and he'd be like, "Yep, hi Emma," and I'm like, "Hi," go to school. So I didn't really, probably didn't apply myself as well as I could have because I was too focused on exercise and pushing myself, and and in the end, because I'd been doing that training, I came fourth in the cross country, and then I went to the zones. I think I came eighth, and then went to the regionals, but I had shin splints, and so had to drop out of the race.
Oh, no.
But my friend, one of my friends who she actually won the race, and she came back to help me because I I couldn't walk after that. So that was a tricky time. So
how would you say you were in terms of like, what subjects did you gravitate towards?
I did art, geography, Chinese, HP. I did English and film and television. I ended up not even doing science.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't there science in mid?
Yeah. So when I came to, when I went to uni, I had to do a bridging course of chemistry and biology in 2 weeks, just full on.
Because you didn't do that in school.
No, but because I did HPE and some of the theory was okay. And then, I'd done maths, so that was good. But that was hard because I hadn't done anything like that.
Before that. I wanted to speak about Africa. If I'm correct, you've been to Africa 6 times over the last 10 years. And it's really interesting because as someone who's from Africa, you've been to Africa more times than me. And, you've been on various mission trips with yourself, with your husband and your daughters as well. What has that experience been like?
Well, every time we've gone, it's been a different experience. So, the first time I went with a medical mission team, and then the second time was just with Jason and another friend, and then the third time we took our girls back with us and went to a wedding, and then the next time I went back with the team, and then the next time I went back with to do midwifery, and then last time I went back and spent time with Alia, and so it's been a different trip every single time, but always really different experiences.
Yeah. I think you said Zari was a baby when you were looking after her at home, and on the radio it mentioned something about Africa. Is that where you first discovered the possibility of going over?
Yeah, I think so. I kept just hearing things about Watoto and just different things about Africa, and it just really I just kept wanting to go there.
Yeah. And I guess the first time you went, how did you feel?
Pretty scared. Yeah. Like at the start I was thinking, man, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Because the environment's so different to what we're used to. Like people, it was just so different, but also just so amazing at the same time, and just things that you couldn't really even explain, or like the sounds, the smells, the sights, like just so cool. Yeah.
There was, now you've been like a number of times and you've been exposed to Africa and a different part of the world and how different people have to live. Comparing it to Australia is in a much better stable position. As someone who has gone to Africa where it's less and come back to Australia and gone to Africa, what was it like constantly going, I guess, to places of poverty and coming back to Australia? Like, what did that do for you?
Yeah, the first time it was really difficult. I remember coming back to Australia and just thinking, like, I don't understand any of this. Like, why was I born in Australia and those people weren't, or why, different things like, and it took a while to kind of work out how I felt or all that sort of stuff. But over the times, I think it kind of made more sense as we got to know more about things, because some, like the people over there, if they had less but they shared it with you and were happy about it and just so joyful and had a deep sense of like community and just love for each other. And sometimes I think like coming back to Australia, it was hard because we're a bit isolated and we're not as in that much of a community and don't spend as much time together. But yeah, it has been difficult and we've had lots of conversations and it's still ongoing journey.
Yeah. When you first went in 2011, it was you were the first in your family. And then a few years later, your husband would go. And then a few years later, your daughters would go. How has it been for you seeing that it was you that started? Now your family has come along as well and they've been a part of that process and that journey.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to think that it all started from that medical mission trip when we met the people that we worked with, and then when Jason and I went back, we met their families, and then we took the girls and they met everyone. And so, yeah, it's just been really kind of each time we've grown on like the relationships, and everything has kind of just kept growing.
Yeah. You mentioned, I think, at the start that sometimes you were scared, actually, when you were first about to go. Ever since that, you've been at least 6 times. Has that fear gone away? Or do you still get nervous when it's time to go back?
That's a tricky question. I still do get nervous, but I always pray about it, and somehow like God reassures me that it's what we're meant to be doing. Yeah. So, I think I'm pretty stubborn, so I know like that things are going to be. Things are going to be okay, and the benefit outweighs the risk.
Yeah, that's a good mindset to take about it.
Yeah. Speaking
of fear is kids have fear, adults have fear, parents have fear. Traveling overseas, as you would have had different fears there. I remember as a kid, I was scared of things like the dark. I was terrified of water and snakes, and I was shy and an introvert. For you, can you remember what sort of fears you had as a kid?
Yeah, I feared swimming. That was a big fear. I
Really?
remember just being petrified of going to swimming lessons and just, I don't know what I thought would happen, but the minute I walked into that place, I didn't want to be there, did not want to go in the deep end.
Yeah.
And
did you know how to swim? Or?
No.
Okay.
But I just remember always being fearful. So I think my brother was a very good swimmer and I was not. So I didn't want to put my head underwater. I didn't want to go in the water. Yeah.
Did you get better at it? Like, it's still something you know?
Not really.
What about the beach? Like, do you go to the beach? Do you like the beach?
Yeah, I do. Except, like, I can swim, but
I just don't want to be
don't want
or something.
I like walking on the beach and, you know.
Not getting in the water.
No. And I don't like, I forced myself to go in a swimming carnival once and then got disqualified because I stood up in the race in the shallow end. So, yeah, swimming's not been my best.
Did any of your fears, like, ever follow you into adulthood and your parenting?
Yeah, so many. I think because of the fear of my fear of water, I didn't let Zoe put her head under the water for years. Wow. So with floaties and, but also, yeah, like just fear of pretty much everything. I was a nurse, so I had, fear of sickness and disease and all that sort of stuff. And then when the kids were little, it'd be like fear of something bad happening to them or them being injured or, just always fearful.
How would you say you dealt with your fear? Like, did you have a method to overcome them?
Not really. I feel like I just kind of, as I got older, I made myself do things with the fear. Like,
so you overcame them by facing them?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Like when the girls were little, I would make myself go swimming, even if I didn't want to, because I wanted to be in the water with them. And, I went to China when I was in grade 11 as well, and that I thought I was actually going to die on that trip. So, yeah, but I didn't. So that was amazing.
That was because a few years before there was that whole the students getting attacked.
Yeah, but we went to Tiananmen Square and we had been studying Chinese, so we had to study at the Beijing People's Uni. And, yeah, it was a really good experience, and I came back with a different perspective on the world and just wanted to see more of it. And, yeah.
Did you go to China as part of your study or?
Yeah, it was I'd been studying, and then it was a trip that our class went on with one of the teachers, and another high school from Brisbane also went.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was 3 weeks. And,
whoa.
Yeah, in 94, I was only 16.
Yeah. You guys also got, to explore and go to Great Wall of China as well?
Yeah, we did.
What was that like, being able to go overseas and see a different part?
Yeah, it was amazing. We saw the Ming tombs. We got to see, different places and Great Wall of China, and, yeah, just amazing. Bit surreal, actually.
To think about. Going into your childhood, what was M like as a kid?
Well, I mentioned that I had brothers. Yeah. So I think my brother and I used to fight a lot, and we were always competing, and we were always
this your older
at
brother?
Each other. Yeah, my older brother. But I always wanted to try and do the right thing, and, but for some reason we wanted to get each other into trouble all the time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. I probably was quiet as a kid, and then became louder as I got older.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a bit of an extrovert, a bit of an introvert, but yeah.
Would you say you prefer the outdoors or the indoors?
Growing up, we used to spend so much time outside. We'd just kick a ball to each other, and we'd be playing basketball. Or actually, our neighbours had a pool, so we'd be swimming, even though I didn't like swimming. And yeah, we spent so much time outside.
When I was younger, I had a best friend named Mitchell, and Mitchell loved Star Wars and Harry Potter. And I love sports, so I knew nothing about Harry Potter. But Mitchell had a sister named Katie, and Katie loved playing with Barbies and Bratz dolls, and, at times we'd play with Katie with the dolls, and we'd play mummies and daddies. What did you do as a kid? What did you guys play?
Well,
other than, obviously, the sports you said.
I did have 2 Barbies, so I was really proud of that. Yeah. But I didn't have sisters to play Barbies with. So, and then when my younger brothers came along, I actually bought my youngest brother a doll for Christmas because I wanted him to play dolls, but he didn't.
Can you remember how old you were and where you had your first job?
Yes, it was at Woolworths, and it was just before I went to China so that I could earn some spending money.
Wow.
For the trip. Yeah.
How was that whole experience like, getting a job like?
Yeah. It was pretty good. I had to get dropped off and picked up. So, you
were 16 at the time, hey?
Yeah. Or 15. And, so either someone would come and pick me up and have to be waiting for me. Yeah. But one of my friends from high school worked at Woolies as well. So that was good because we got to see each other. And
that's nice. Would you say there are things that you miss from when you were younger that maybe the world now doesn't do?
Yeah, I think, back in the day, we didn't have mobile phones, and I think I got my first mobile when I was at uni, and it was only for emergencies. So, like, we weren't on any devices, or we didn't even know really what a computer was until I was in high school. So, it was a lot different. Like, we used to walk each other home from, my friend and I lived nearby in the same suburb, so we'd walk each other home like 3 or 4 times in the one afternoon, and we'd just be having like good fun, I guess, out in the community.
So you'd say you prefer how back then people were more involved in physical interaction than now where it's social?
Yeah, I don't know, like, if it was just my perspective as a child, because that was what I knew. Yeah. But now I know, like, even with, technology and all that, people are still interacting and, they are having a good time. And so it's different, but I think it's not necessarily better. It's like my way. Yeah. I think that, like, my girls have had lots of fun. Like, we used to live near a park, and they used to go out and play on, in the playground and in the backyard and stuff. So they didn't miss out either, even though they're in a different generation. Yeah.
With the next question, and I'm not saying you're old, but before your teenage years, was the internet around?
It was www. It was like the World Wide Web, and I only knew about it in, I think, pretty much grade 11 or 12.
That's when you found out about the internet?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And we had to print out our, our assignments and hand them in, and there was no such thing as USBs or.
That's surprising. You're 11.
Yeah, I'm not that old. Come on.
In every house that has more than one kid, there's that sibling love where one day you're friends, the next day you fight, the next day you're friends. Aside from, obviously, the fights as kids have, what were some positives you remember from growing up with your brothers?
So when I mentioned that hard time that I was going through in high school, and then all of a sudden my brother and I became like best friends, and we did things together, and I think we even went to Movie World together, and we just spent it felt like only a couple of years, because then I moved out, but they were some really good times. My younger brothers were a lot younger than me, so I kind of didn't have to get to have as much sibling fun with them as I probably could have.
There was you guys had big age gaps between one another. Did you guys go through school together, or no, since of the age gap?
No. So my older brother's 3 years older than me, so we went through primary school and we were at high school at the same time. But my younger brothers are 7 and 10 years younger than me, so we didn't really go to the same school. And then I moved out when I was 17, so missed out on that bit.
Okay. And from growing up around boys, would you say you had a tomboy face throughout that?
Well, sometimes I had to wear my brother's T-shirts, like hand-me-downs. And some of our neighbours were boys, and I don't think I was a tomboy, but I just played, did what they were doing.
Yeah. What about like makeup and heels? Like, was that something that fascinated you, or you didn't really care about that stuff?
Not really. I didn't. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really. I cared about health and beauty tips and things like that, but not to the extent of It wasn't until I kind of moved out that I started wearing makeup and all that sort of stuff. So
okay, and there was a story that you told me about your siblings and how one time you just got in trouble as a punishment, had to clean cars around the neighborhood. Can you tell me about that story?
So my older brother and I were fighting over who would go have the first shower. So we were like tussling at the shower, and we actually broke the shower screen. So then we were both like, no, you can have the first shower. I want the first shower. So we ended up having to wash cars and wash windows and tell our neighbours what had happened, and it was really embarrassing. And to earn the money to buy the shower screen. So,
So the punishment. So you guys did that in order to raise funds to buy the screen. Whoa.
Yeah.
No pressure or anything at all, but what influenced you from your childhood to be the type of mum you were?
I just really wanted the girls to have a positive, encouraging time, growing up and everything. And I tried to, make them feel that they were loved and just really, had good things to look forward to and that sort of thing, and make the best of, each moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before going any further, I just wanted to shout out Cholius Banger, who created the theme song for the podcast. This is just a snippet of his track.
Gravity, ayy, gravity, lay, gravity, hey, gravitated off.
If you haven't already, give the song a play.
I think I went through a phase where when I moved to Toowoomba, I re-gave my life to God. I had been baptized as a 10-year-old and, had always known about God and had been going to church and things like that. But it wasn't until I kind of moved to Toowoomba and focused and everything, and had people that were my age that actually weren't ashamed of going to church, or they actually really wanted to go to church. And, I joined the youth and did stumpies and leading and everything, even though I was only a year or two older than some of my people that I led.
Yeah.
It kind of really changed for me, when I moved to Toowoomba. So, yeah.
Okay. I wanted to speak about your nana. And when I was putting together the questions, and reading back past other messages, something I thought was really beautiful was how your family house was actually next door to your grandparents. When you think back to your nana, what comes to mind about her?
She was a beautiful lady. She had very white hair and very blue eyes.
Yeah.
And in her house, they had a picture of her that when she was younger, and she just looked so beautiful and amazing. Yeah. She was a gentle woman. She went to church, and she babysat us a lot. Looked after us a lot. And we'd love going to Nana's because she would give us, poppers and different things that we didn't have, like rice bubbles in the morning. And so we spent a lot of good times there. We used to help her put her Christmas tree up, and she taught me how to knit, and she taught me to play the piano. And so it was always, Nana was a beautiful lady. So, yeah.
And what about your grandpa? What type of man was he like?
He was a big, tall, kind of gruff man. I don't know, we're probably a little bit scared of him, to be honest. And he was the opposite of Nana. Like you'd be practicing to play the piano and he'd be like, stop playing because I want to watch the news, and turn it down, you're too noisy and stuff like that. But, Nana passed away when I was 10, so the same year I got baptised in 1988.
Did you see the baptism?
I don't remember. Oh. I don't know, sorry. But after that, Papa sort of started coming to church many years later, and he softened a bit and was very kind to the boys, like my younger brothers, and would let them watch cartoons in his house and stuff, which he never would have let us do. So, yeah.
And, you described your Nana as a beautiful, kind lady. Would you say that she influenced you to be kind as well?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't really think about it, but one day she just went to the hospital and never came back. It's only been as an adult that I realised that she was a big part of our life when we were little, and we never really talked about it or anything. So, yeah.
I wanted to go now, and going after year 12, you decided to move out of home at just 17. Was that scary? Was that exciting? Like, what was that like?
So I had put Toowoomba as my first preference.
Yep.
And hadn't forgotten to tell my parents. And so when I got accepted, I told them, and then two of my friends from high school and I took a road trip to Toowoomba. We stayed in a caravan park, and we were going to check out, the uni and everything. And when we got here, we were like, this is a ghost town. Like, who would want to live here? There was no one around. We were actually going, no, I'm not going to do it. And then when we were going to the bus to change because we caught the bus, we were changing our, time that we were going back. I bumped into a friend that we had, and she made it sound so amazing. And if, I moved here, I could live with her. And so by the time I got back to Brisbane, I was moving to Toowoomba. And I told my parents, and I was like, yep, I'm going to move.
From when you made the move, and once you started living here, did the thought of ever going back home cross your mind? Or?
Yeah, I lived on campus on McGregor College for the first year, and that was, I just had a room, and you'd go to the dining hall and sit with your block people, and I did really miss my family, and but I think I didn't want to go back because I was, supposed to be doing uni, and I didn't want to quit. And so the thought of going back never crossed my mind.
When you left to come study, and you studied
I started nursing first,
and
then I did midwifery a long time later. So, yeah.
Was nursing what you always wanted to do, or how did that come about?
I actually wanted to be a flight attendant. So
really?
I'd thought, I'd love to do that. And then the intake wasn't for another till you were 21. And so it was actually my dad that suggested that I do nursing or something like that, so that by the time I turned 21, I'd have a degree and, had something to fall back on if that didn't work out. And I never became a flight attendant.
With being out of home at that time, you know, you would have had bills and the rent to pay. Like, how are you supporting yourself?
So I actually got a job at a nursing home. So I was a student nurse working in a dementia unit, and it was very challenging. But that's how I got through, and yeah.
They would have been paying you, hey?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The first time I wasn't getting paid for doing uni, but when I did my master's, I had to get a job as a student midwife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now that your mother, and say one of your daughters came up to you and asked if they could move out, how do you think you would respond?
Well, funny you should say that, because a couple of weeks ago, Ali was talking about moving to Africa, as she's going to, and then Zoe said she's going to move to Brisbane, and I'm going, what? No. Yeah, obviously I don't want them to move out, but if they have to, then that's fine.
Do you think, due to the fact that, you know, you had made that decision and you had gone through that experience, you're okay for them to go through that?
All right. So when I was on campus, it cost $1 to wash one load of washing, and that was all my whole clothes fit in that one wash for $1. I think they should stay home and, you know, just enjoy the luxury of having family and not having to do everything by yourself. And
more about being a mother. What was it like when you first heard you're going to be having a baby?
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. Yeah, really exciting, and you know, something that, you know, we'd either going to go to America, and we were saving up, and you know, we were going to put this money on this trip, or if I fell pregnant, then we would be putting the money on a house, a deposit. So I fell pregnant, and so we bought the house, so we never got to America.
Just being a mother, like, how has that been for you?
It's been, like a really huge thing, but I'm really proud that I got to have 3 beautiful girls, and it's been a journey, but it's been really good, and time has gone so fast. Like, people always say, you know, you should, don't blink or you'll miss it, or, you know, and so when I became a midwife, I would tell the women, you know, make sure you enjoy this baby, like, even though it's so hard and everything, because one day they're going to be a teenager and it'll happen so quickly, but you don't kind of know until it's actually happening, and they're driving and looking back going, where did those years go?
What would you say are some things that you understand better now that your mother, that you may not have understood as a kid in Sunnybank?
I don't know, like, now that I'm a mother, you know, obviously I would be, like, growing up I would be fearful and things like that, but now I kind of just trust that hopefully the girls will make their own choices and they'll be good choices, and that, you know, that they would know love, and that they know God, and so that they would make really, really good choices. And
Is there a lesson growing up that stands out to you that you've tried to pass on to your daughters?
Yeah, I think to be kind to people, and to just try not to just see, you know, like, don't just see people, you know, from their outward appearance, but try and get to know them, and really just, I don't know, give people a chance. And yeah.
That's amazing. And what would you say is the hardest thing you've had to learn being a parent?
Oh, I think patience. Yeah, because so many, you know, like, when the kids are little, they have their own mind and they want to do like their own thing. And sometimes, you know, like they won't go to sleep when you want them to go to sleep, or they won't wear the clothes you want them to wear. Yeah. So I think it's taught me a lot to just go with what's happening and like choose my battles.
When you, you know, seeing your daughters growing up, do you ever see like your personalities in them? Like, you ever see a younger you in them, in how they go in life?
Sometimes, yeah, like I always thought Millie was more like Jason, but then sometimes I thought, oh no, she's like me. And but yeah, I guess glimpses of that. But then sometimes I'm glad that they're not the same.
Yeah.
So
to finish off, I wanted to end on this, which is something you said. You said, I hope that when people look at me, they see a loving, caring, and kind person, even though I am strong and resilient, and see God's love and grace shining through my life. Why is that important to you?
I think because I've always wanted to like make a difference in the world, and not just, you know, not just try and get more things or, you know, get a better house or whatever, but like to actually make a difference in people's lives, and to be, you know, I don't know, like try and do something for other people that hasn't been done before or something. Yeah.
That's so wonderful and a good perspective. That brings us to the end. And so I just wanted to say thank you so much for this opportunity and for sharing your story.
Wow, thank you so much.
That's okay. Before checking out, I wanted to say thank you for listening. Make sure to subscribe and follow Gravitated Arts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, plus hit the notifications bell to be notified every time Gravitated Arts drops.
Did it for my team, for my pigs, for my G, for who need it. Showing up on days that I couldn't see a reason. Showing up on days I would rather lay and sleeping. Showing up on days I disconnected, they connected, now we gravity, ayy, gravity, lay, gravity, hey, gravitated off.